Lucas, if
Yes.
you had to pick a movie that is animated and you think is underrated, what is it?
Well, my first question is, what's a movie? I've never heard of that. Can you explain?
A movie is like a plot projected onto a screen to tell you a story.
Okay, so it's like therapy cards, like ink blots. Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
almost like that.
my pick is the hit 2013 movie Turbo. No, no. right before this, right before this, we were talking about movies that we would despise to be on here. Well, we didn't. I started going on like an unprompted rant about the 2013 movie Turbo and how that snail is fast. But no, that's not my pick. That's not my pick. My actual pick is it's the first movie I ever saw in theaters. 2006's Curious George with Will Ferrell as the man in the yellow hat.
Okay, all right.
That
That's a
movie,
deep cut.
it's a gorgeous movie. You got Upside Down, a gorgeous song to open it up, but it is genuinely some of the most beautiful animation I think I've ever seen. And it's a very wholesome, it's a very sweet movie. You can show it to your mom, you'll make her cry. I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. It's fantastic. And then they released Minions a few years later. So I guess that kind of shows you the pipeline that Universal was going as a distributor.
This is terrible. Oh man. To answer my own question, if I had to pick what movie I felt was underrated that is in the animated category, it is the hit movie Surf's Up.
No!
If you're ever feeling
No! I
down,
know why you're doing this. I know why you're doing this.
if you are ever down for the count and you feel like you can't get anywhere in life, go watch this movie. You will be uplifted beyond imagine. And Cody and Chicken Joe are both goats.
9 out of 10
Now, to
goats.
actually start the episode, I am joined by my co-partner Lucas, and today we are reviewing the movie Toy Story. Take it away, pal.
The first fully computer generated movie, the first CGI movie to be released on a feature scale was Toy Story. It was a technological revolution. My dad has said that he saw it back when it came out in the 90s. And I guess I don't know how he missed the trailers because he said the first time that Woody came to life, the entire audience gasped. They gasped. They were in shock. They were in shock to see this. And yeah, this is a movie I grew up with. This is the second movie on this list that we're covering that I've seen before. And I mean, it's really funny. This is a funny movie. I'm actually very surprised by how well the humor holds up. I feel like a lot of newer Pixar films don't really have humor. Even the classic Pixar films, you look at your Wall-E's, you look at your Ratatouilles, there's jokes in it, but the intent of being funny isn't the
Yeah, they
main
don't
goal
hit
of
the
it.
same.
No, yeah. So I was amused watching this. I actually watched this a few months before we started the podcast, and that watch was life changing because it had been 10 years since I'd watched it. 10 years. And rewatching it was so huge. It was such a moment that when I rewatched it for this episode, I was like, my God, I know what's going to happen. I kind of ruined it for myself just by rewatching it so recently, but it still holds up very well. It's still a very, very, very good movie. Very well written. Not like, of course, the magnum opus 2007 Surf's Up. That is, I don't think this can hold a candle to that, obviously.
I don't think it could either, personally, in my opinion. But the media will tell you otherwise. Pixar film, Disney propaganda, whatever.
Yeah, the mouse and coats, they have like a whole line of mice that are ready to strike. It's like the bubonic plague, but it's more corporate. Brought to you
Yeah,
by
yeah, yeah,
Disney theme
exactly.
parks. Yeah. Um, what did you think of it just on rewatch? When was the last time you've seen this?
Literally before we started recording this,
Okay,
uh,
well before that, obviously.
well, yeah. When the hell did I watch this film last year? It had to be sometime in like the year of like 2011 is when I like last watched this film. It's been a very long time because I had no idea about like being able to watch movies on the internet and shit when I was younger, and being able to rewatch this and kind of also go back into what we dealt with in Toy Story 3, kind of dive back into the childhood a little bit. And me being able to see this after the point of seeing like the end of the trilogy, I wasn't really as wrapped into this one as much, just because I kind of like, you know what happens after. But this was still a very great film. And what do you say? This came out in 1999, right?
1995, the sequel came out in 99.
Oh, this came out in 1995. Holy fuck.
Yep,
That's
same year
crazy to
as
see how
same year
much
as the
technology has advanced
yes, it
in
was
that
the
amount of time.
it was the same year as the hit movie Shazam. No, it was Kazam. I always get that confused. Starring
Oh
Shaquille O'Neal.
man, greatest movie of all time. Sorry to tell you, boys.
It was a groundbreaking year for cinema. You know, you had Crash, the movie where it's a bus driving around for an hour with a terrorist on it. It's fantastic. Um,
Oh, this is ridiculous.
yeah, Marshall actually watched. Marshall didn't know what the internet was back then, so he actually watched this on letters that were sent to him. He has like
Yeah,
thousands
yeah,
and thousands of
exactly.
frames. He has that. He actually had to like put them on the wall in succession and run past it really quickly while feeling like the braille underneath because he's bilingual.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, totally.
So I had fun watching this. Not as much fun as my
Oh
first
yeah, yeah, yeah.
rewatch,
It was a
but
great rewatch.
it is. I agree. It's very impressive that this came out in the 90s because the animation, it's not bad. There are stuff that came out, like Monster House came out 11 years later. Now, granted, that's a TV budget, but the fact that this is on Monster House's level and it's from the Clinton years, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, that is absolute. I do. What are the deep cuts right now? Why are we bringing up Monster House?
well,
What are we doing?
well, you mentioned underrated animated movies.
I don't know what call it underrated.
Yeah, perfectly rated in our generation. My one sin is that I never actually watched Monster House.
Yeah, you're not missing much.
Uh, I was expecting slander coming at my throat, but he was like, "Yeah, it's okay."
It's a cheesy Halloween movie about a house coming alive. Like, come on.
Yeah, we prefer toys coming to life. That's much classier. That's a lot better.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. Disney sprinkled their little, magic dust on it, and it worked out pretty well for them until they made the fourth film. That's when it kind of went off a cliff.
Well, that's where it's interesting. I find about Pixar films. The first, I think, I want to say six. I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but the first several Pixar films were not made by Disney. They were just by Pixar. Disney distributed them, but this film was made completely independent of Disney. And it wasn't until Ratatouille that Disney started to have more involvement with it. Disney bought Pixar the year
Oh,
Cars
really?
came out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was actually a time that Pixar was going to sell, just like get out of its contract with Disney because Disney was just sort of distributing it. And there's a timeline where, Pixar could have been making movies for Warner Brothers. There's a timeline where, Wally could have came out for Universal and then we would never have the Minions. So it's interesting to think about how just the politics of the entertainment industry influence stories because Disney recently they got in trouble because they told Pixar staff to tone down the themes of the trans community in their upcoming TV show, and I wonder if they'd be able. I wonder what type of art Pixar would be able to make if they were still independent.
Oh, that is actually crazy. I did not know any of this. Look at you with all your knowledge on film.
Well, you see, it wasn't until Bob Iger took over. Yeah, because that's landed me. Do you know how many like chicks I've gotten just by? Well, first off, calling women chicks is always a surefire sign of going out. But
Oh, yeah, totally.
that's the first thing I talk about. We talk about the hit 2013 movie Turbo, and then we transition to the Pixar acquisition of 2006, because all women want to hear that.
Exactly. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, totally.
so the animation holds up well. There are some clunky moments, mainly like the facial expressions, especially the humans, but the story is really where the strength of this comes from. And did you know this was written by four people? At least there are four people credited with the screenplay.
At least four. All right. Yeah.
At least four.
That sounds about right.
You think
It's
that
crazy that you think there'd be more than at least like six. I feel like six is like a more round number.
well, I mean, you have story credits, people who contribute to the story who didn't actually like write the script. They just were sort of idea men.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
That's the thing that's like interesting about film and television. Television's always been more of a writer's room medium where you have a dozen or so writers, but film it's usually two or three people, like one or two, not really that many.
Well, yeah, because I guess you have like your lead writer, and then you have like all like the co-writers and whatever.
Yeah, they usually end up just getting relegated to story because I don't see like a bunch of people hopping on the same script software. Um,
Exactly.
but the story's still tight regardless of that.
Yeah, yeah. From this to go to like kid's favorite toy to kind of him getting like the banishment aspect of the new toy coming in, him being his favorite, watching his entire quote unquote world kind of melt around him and like change to him being coming like out of the spotlight. It's just crazy how they can come up with all this in a literal kids movie. And I love how also, like, granted, it was a '90s film, so I can also understand why. But like, how are they able to say cannibals die? And there was a third word that I can't think of that I was questioning on how they were able to say this shit. I really was.
We talk about the noose that gets drawn on the etch a sketch.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. That was something I actually wanted to bring up, was the noose on the etch a sketch. Like, how are they allowed to pull this off?
There's a whole bit where Rex is talking about how he's from Mattel, but actually he's from a subsidiary from Taiwan that got purchased in a buyout. And I'm like, this would never happen in a new Pixar movie. You would not have this sharp of dialogue. Feels like a comedy movie because that's what it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy that they were able to pull this nonsense off. I mean, hell, it made them a shit ton of money, so they were doing something right.
Yeah.
What do you think was your favorite moment from this film as far as like an aspect of humor?
Boss looking alien! That's the best scene. That's the best scene. You actually think you're the Buzz Lightyear? Oh, all this time I thought it was an act. Like, come on. It's
Oh
so
man,
funny.
that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one. Personally, mine's kind of a little bit more mundane as a joke, but it's when the shark has Woody's hat. He's like, "I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy." I don't know. To me, that's just like an iconic moment every time I hear it,
You're a man of
and I just think it's
subtlety.
hilarious. Yeah, exactly.
It's the little things that get you. I like what's he call it? He's like, where's that bonding strip? Gives him a thing of tape.
The body.
I wasn't flying, that was falling with style.
Oh
I
man,
think
dude.
the two of
This
us
movie is a classic, though. I
we
cannot lie.
we should get I think the two of us should just go out to a bar and record the next podcast episode. It's just the two of us out there yelling Toy Story quotes at the patrons. That will go over great with management. I would love to see that.
Oh, this is fucking nonsense, dude. I love it. So, Lucas,
Yeah.
where do we rate this film?
Before we go into that, I feel like there's just a couple things I want to say about it more. Like
All right, go on.
Woody, the thing I respect most about the original Toy Story is how they're not afraid to make the character just a jerk. Think about it. How many other films, especially animated films, do you see where the main character is as much of an asshole as Woody? Like this guy is going around, he's like, "Oh, shut up," just bossing people around, gets really petty and insecure. Now, granted, the sequels he fleshes out, he develops as a character, which is, in my opinion, the biggest strengths of the sequels. He changes so much between this movie and the third movie that it really is a profound sort of character arc. But I would love to see another feature tackle on this sort of petty, insecure personality. We need more asshole like main characters, like genuine jerks who just sort of just mosey on through the plot. Because I feel like that's a very underrated aspect of Toy Story that no other Pixar movie does.
Yeah, you bring up a very solid point. I will not lie. They haven't really tried that with many other. I mean, it worked for him because like he was like the star of his quote unquote own show, and then he got shunned out because of a new toy. So yeah,
Yeah,
that would be something hard to tackle. Well, maybe you can try it in your career at some point.
maybe I could. Shrek is the only other example I can think of, like off the top of my head, from like a main character who's just.
Oh yeah, a good point.
Are you excited for Shrek 5?
Am I excited for Shrek 5? When is that supposed to come out?
2026, so you know, a skipping stone away.
Oh my god. All right.
Yeah, I
We're gonna
heard.
get GTA 6 before Shrek 5. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I heard to celebrate America's quinta bicentennial, whatever it's called. We are actually going to be Shrek is actually going to be delivering a speech from the Capitol on America's 250th. It's a cross promotional thing. Just just excited for that.
Is that actually happening?
No,
Or
it's
are you
not.
like pulling
It's
my
not.
shit
I'm
on
pulling your
here?
chain.
Okay, all right, all right. I thought this was actually happening for a second. Like I wouldn't have been baffled by it at all. I could so see this happening in a real life scenario. I won't lie.
Well, Comcast, if you're listening, there you go. I expect a 15% cut from the ratings on Peacock. Be sure to advertise it with the other Olympics, Winter Olympics, and yeah, I look forward to seeing Mike Myers take the stage.
Oh man, but am I excited for Shrek 5? I'd say so. Puss in Boots 2 really got me riled in for it. I won't lie.
That's one of my favorite movies. That's one of my favorite movies just of all time. I love that movie so much. It's so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Animation is absolutely stellar. Storytelling, absolutely stellar. And main villain, absolutely stellar. Your three main plot points right there.
Everything about that movie and Toy Story that makes it just work so well is that everything kind of comes together in a nice bow. You know, I love a good story where the ending is open, but man, for something as digestible and as contemporary as this, there's nothing better than having everything just kind of go full circle with Buzz. In a way, Buzz is kind of the new Woody at the end, if you think about it, because he's the one who sits on the bed and Woody sits up next to him. And seeing both of these characters go through this adventure is not only, you know, emotionally gripping because you get invested in the personalities, but also there's just fun little payoffs. You have, of course, Buzz flying through the air during the climax, which is iconic for all the right reasons, and then the puppy payoff at the end. It's just it's everything an audience could want out of this type of story, and it takes full advantage of it.
You know, I do also love the subtle foreshadowing that they have with the Owl's toy store that they showed in
Yes.
the ad when
Yes.
Buzz was in Sid's house. It's crazy foreshadowing.
While the alcoholic father, is passed out on the recliner snoring.
Yeah, like that also wouldn't be able to get pulled off in today's Pixar film.
One line that always stuck with me was when his mom yells about his Pop Tarts being ready. I'm like, I wonder if they were a sponsor. Probably.
You know, honestly, it's not. I wonder what kind of Pop Tarts they were. That's a good question.
Yes, we'll have a poll. What Pop Tarts do you think Sid were eating? Leave a comment below. Be sure to vote on our
Yeah,
socials, and we'll talk
hey,
about
go
it
ahead
next
and vote
week.
on that, people.
My prediction, I'm going to say he's definitely nothing fruity. That kid has not had a bite of fruit since he grew in teeth. Like, that kid was definitely on applesauce,
So,
but then gave
so
up.
are we thinking more of like a brown sugar cinnamon kind of like individual?
I'm thinking Oreo. Like, this kid is definitely eating Oreos at 7 in the morning.
Do you think they had Oreo Pop Tarts during that time
Dear Google, I don't know.
frame?
I couldn't tell you, honestly. We'll
They
find out.
definitely had s'mores Pop Tarts during that time. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah. Uh, the Oreo. Okay. Kellogg's invented Pop Tarts, not Oreo. Thanks, Google. Oh well. We'll find out. I'll let you know next week. I'll let you know next week. That's my
All
subtle
right,
foreshadowing.
get back to me on that.
Yeah. What do you rate this film?
What do I rate this film?
Yeah.
Hmm. It's a tough question.
Well, you
It's
asked it
kind of a,
first.
well, yeah, no. I know. It's just I didn't really get to it. I was hoping I could kind of based off of your answer, but I'm kind of just diving in head first. So my problem is like I don't know. I feel like I've been giving out too many high ratings for films, but I
Fair
also don't
enough.
feel like it's a bad thing either because this is a top 100. This is what people think are the 100 best movies of all time. So for a movie to be on this list, it should be at least somewhat decent. Except Akira. Akira was kind of odd to me,
The day
but
he gives Shawshank Redemption like a 6 out of 10. I'm so looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to it.
That'd be crazy for our last episode of this series.
Where's it gonna
I
rank?
Where's it gonna go? Is it gonna go at 42? Is it gonna go at 7?
Oh, don't even get me started. Once we hit like 40, that's when I'm gonna have trouble like ranking these.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be terrible.
We're gonna have actually
Alright.
like a half-hour inner like section at the end of each final episode where I'm just reading off the list. Just going up. Okay, Akiru, because we know Akiru's gonna be last. We know he's gonna be dead last. No, you never know.
This is fucking ridiculous. All right, so where I have to rate this film at, I'll give it a solid 4. There's
Solid
not much
four.
it did wrong, but it's a dated film. Humor still sticks, but animation could be better. But for the time, it's great.
Yeah. Do you have any other like thoughts, comments on it?
No, I think I've gotten over every point that I wanted to get across. Where do you rate this film?
I also gave it a 4. Um,
You also give it a 4.
I also gave it a
Interesting. Okay.
4. Originally 4.5, but uh, recent watch kind of like watered it down for me because I'm like, oh, this beat's gonna happen next. There's no real surprise on the journey, so I feel like it's just very well made. That's it. There's nothing really more that you can say. This is not jaw-dropping cinema. I feel like the second and third movie definitely sort of ups that game by getting philosophical about the concept of, oh, what does a toy do after its purpose is filled? And that's really where the heavy-duty
Yeah,
storytelling
absolutely.
comes in. But for this, it's just a really funny film. It's a fun, enjoyable film. Fantastic voice acting. I think that's the note that I forgot to mention. Tom Hanks is an incredible Woody. Tim Allen
Very
also
stacked cast.
very, very good as Buzz Lightyear. And shout out Don Rickles. Don Rickles was famous for being a insult comic, just constantly putting people down. Usually that's how it goes on a date for me. But Don Rickles, his character, if you haven't noticed, he's sort of like a soft antagonist. Like out of all the toys, he's definitely the rudest and is always on like Woody's case.
Are
So
you talking about Mr. Potato Head?
Mr. Potato Head, yeah, exactly, and that was
All right,
adapted based off Don Rickles' personality.
that's crazy. I didn't
So
know that.
I feel like that was interesting. Also, fun fact, we didn't mention this earlier, but the kid who voices Andy in this film still voiced him in Toy Story 3 for grown up Andy. It's the same guy.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I
It's
didn't
the
know
little
that.
things. I
That's
know.
sweet.
That is very sweet. So on the list we have Akiru, The Apartment, Singing in the Rain, Doctor Strangelove, Return of the Jedi, Princess Mononoke, Lawrence of Arabia, Toy Story 3, Reservoir Dogs, Come and See. Where do we want to put this?
Where do we want to? I don't know. I'm kind of cool putting this underneath. Where's Toy Story 3 at?
Toy Story 3 is third. It's under Reservoir Dogs, above Lawrence of Arabia.
What's underneath Toy Story 3?
Lawrence of Arabia.
Hmm. I'm kind of fine putting it at 4. What do you think?
Do we think Princess Mononoke is better than this one? I don't know.
That's a good question.
I want to say yes, but then I remembered my critiques and I want to say no. I want to say no. Lawrence is too long for like a casual sitting, and Princess Mononoke, I just kind of became detached from the action. So I'm comfortable putting it at fourth.
All right, yeah, we're throwing it at 4.
All right, sounds good. Next week we will be touching on I believe it's a nice little short film. It's called Once Upon a Time in America. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it. Only like 4 hours
Oh yeah,
long.
yeah, yeah. A very short film.
Yeah.
Not time consuming at all.
Yes, we shall. We'll find out, and we'll talk to you then.
All right, peace out, people.